Manus flat on the canvas. We are ready to rock and roll. Second round of action. There is a cut on Manus.
Yeah.
Martial arts chat.
My man B-Hop got dropped out the ring last night. I need a little judo baby. I need me a little judo baby, and let's do it, Rhonda. Let's give me up.
You see what filming this? You've got a face for radio.
That's got a face for radio.
That's nice.
Martial arts chat.
Hello and welcome to Martial Arts Chat Podcast live here on Speaker.com. On tonight's live roundtable, we're reacting to last night's UFC in Lincoln.
Martial Arts Chat.
And of course, answering your fan questions and comments. Thank you to everyone who got in touch. Remember, you can continue to hit us up during the live stream. Go to Facebook.com/Martial Arts Chat or on Twitter, hit me up at Martial Arts Chat. Before I introduce tonight's panel, first a shout out to our sponsors, A1 Fight Gear. A1 Fight Gear use the latest cutting edge boxing gloves for professional amateur fighters, gym enthusiasts and kickboxers. Local and national gyms in the UK, do yourselves a favour, go to a1fightgear.com. And if you want to get into shape, continue to stay in shape, keep the fat off, go to beastgear.co.uk, use the coupon code MartialArtsChat, you can save 15% off your purchases, where they've got core sliders, barbell pads, all sorts of strength and conditioning programs, all to suit your needs at different levels. And finally, we're also sponsored by MMATakeover.com. For the real MMA rankings, go to MMATakeover.com or visit them on Facebook or on Twitter. So, to tonight's panel, always a pleasure to have him on from Juice MMA, and often mistaken for Mickey Rourke is Mr. Victor Vargas. Victor, how you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good, John. Doing pretty good. I don't know if my voice might sound a little weird. Had a night out the other day, and I'm still recovering a little bit. But other than that, I'm all right.
Good lad. Also returning the show, a pleasure to have him on from Carson's Corner, Mr. Bob Carson. How you doing, sir?
John Boy, thank you so much for having me, man. It's great to be back.
Pleasure, my friend. And finally, the greatest thing out of Lubbock, Texas, from the main event, Mr. Kevin Jones. Kev, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. I am checking out my tomatoes because I'm an old man like that. It takes me a little while to recover from Friday nights as well. I'm sure mine wasn't as fun as Victor's was, but we got the job done.
Good man, excellent stuff. Gentlemen, some fun fights for us to react to last night. Let's start with Eric Anders, who almost took this boy's head off with a brutal KO head kick. He gets back to winning ways in spectacular fashion after that loss to Machida, that ridiculous judge's decision. We'll probably not get into that, but let's get the panel's reaction to this. Start with Mr. Bob Carson. Bob, what did you make of the finish, and what do you think the future holds for Anders in the middleweight division?
Yeah, it was kind of lucky. I think Eric, he saw him get up a couple times off the canvas and time this kick, and it just so happened that his hand was off the canvas when he landed the kick. So I guess it was, if it was a split second either way, it would have been an illegal strike. But Eric Anders does it. I was impressed by Tim Williams' performance because, to be honest with you, a lot of people thought that he wasn't going to last this long. He's a New Jersey kid, and I wasn't really too familiar with him prior to this fight here. But Eric Anders digs deep, gets the finish in round 3, and he's a guy that has a lot of heart and has a lot of potential, and the UFC thinks very, very highly of him. So I think we're going to see him continue to get, fights and perhaps main event fights, more main event fights, going further into his career.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Victor, how about you? Some finish. He takes home a performance of the night bonus. Give us your thoughts on this fight, mate.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular. All I kept thinking afterwards was I was just very thankful that Nebraska, of all goddamn states, adopted the new quote-unquote unified rules. Yeah. But it was a beautiful KO, and it was brutal, too. It was just very effective. And, the fact that he might, I don't know, it's still, the whole point of this is that if we're under the old rules, even if his fingertip was right off the mat, people would want to review it, and they might have just called it a disqualification then and there because, he was still getting up off the mat. But since he clearly had one hand off the mat, it didn't really matter. He got kicked in the face and the fight was over. Sure. As far as Anders goes, I think the guy's a real talent, man. I didn't pay too much attention to him when he first came in. I know people were high on him after he knocked out Natal, and then people thought, because of Machida's age, that he was going to win. But I'm very impressed because he is obviously very athletic, but he seems to want to learn. He has some very good skills, and he keeps improving. And he's not that young. He's 31. Sure. But but I think he's maturing at a good rate. And depending on how the UFC wants to match him up, I think he could get very far in this division, especially with guys like Rockhold, presumably going up, Romero, well, eventually, who knows with him. But if guys keep dropping off like this, he might actually go pretty far in this division.
Yeah, man. Finally, Kev, what did you make of the head kick, and how do you think Anders performs and will perform in the future, mate?
I think he's going to perform well in the future. I'm going to disagree with both of our panelists here, and I love it when I get to do that. I think 31, man, is a pretty ripe age, man. I think Eric Andrews is just entering his prime, man. I think these next 2 or 3 years are going to be the prime years of his career, and he got a lot of juice moving into it. So if we can string together some wins, man, you never know what could happen. It is this middleweight division, man, and it's always kind of topsy-turvy at the top, man. If Woodley loses this title, then I guess let's wait. Sorry, I'm still a little hungover from that Friday, but I slept. My mid-morning nap lasted till about just before the show started. But no, I like him at the age of 31, man. And like I said, I think he's in his prime. I feel like Mr. Carson might be playing a little bit of a homer for his Jersey boy over there, man. I think his kick was timed perfectly. I think he had a lot of time to time this thing out and figure out what he was going to do, when he was going to do it, and he shot his shot. And just to agree with everybody, man, the Jersey kid definitely put on a great performance, and I hope a lot of eyes are drawn to him as well. Nothing but the best for him. He ran into the wrong guy on this night at the wrong time. And also, I've loved the fact that Victor brought up this unified rules thing, because with the way it's structured now, where you got to have your palms on the ground, man, it is it's not up for debate whether or not that kick was legal or not. You know what I mean? But there shouldn't be anybody questioning the legality of that strike.
Fair play, mate. Jake Ellenberger is a guy who I think probably should have retired a while ago, but I guess he got to do it in his own backyard here, and it was a nice little touch and tribute. But another devastating KO is what he suffered, though. Let's get the guy's thoughts. We'll start with Victor this time. Victor, you sad to see Ellenberger hang up, or do you think he should have done it sooner?
I think he should have done it sooner. I am glad to see him retire. It's kind of Ellenberger had a kind of a weird UFC run. I still remember this was right when I was getting into the sport, when he first came. I think it literally was his first fight against Carlos Condit on like a week's notice, and he took that kid to the woodshed, man. But Condit's experience and his grappling ended up winning him that fight, but I remember everyone was high on him at that point. And then he, think he might have lost another one, started going on that big streak, and it's kind of fucked up. But the thing I probably remember him most for is him losing to Campman. That was the fight that snapped his win streak, because after he lost, it was actually one of the weird things. I still remember Steve Mazzagatti ref that fight, and it was maybe the best call of his career, because he stopped it at the exact perfect moment. But as soon as they were announcing the winner, Jake's face he was so pissed off, which I don't understand why, because he just got knocked out. But it's just his reaction that always gets stuck in my head. But and then the other thing that does stick out too is his knockout of Matt Brown, because that was a fight that everybody. Maybe even including his mother was counting him out in that one, and he kicked the shit out of his liver, and that was like probably his last hurrah lately. But I'm glad to see he retired, man, and frankly, I don't know if he would have done it if it wasn't in Nebraska, because fighters tend to be kind of weird, and to me it showed that this fight he just had nothing left, and I hope he'd have the common sense to come to grips with that. But I think the fact that it was in Nebraska, he just felt that peace, like I got nothing else to do, and this is it for me.
I suppose fair play, mate. Kev, how about you? Your thoughts on the fight and also the career of Jake Ellenberger?
Well, I think coming into this fight, the assumption was that he would be knocked out. He lost 9 of his last 11. I think 5 or 6 of those were knockout losses. The guy's been losing for so long, it's hard for me to remember him winning. It was 2013 last time he rattled off 2 wins in a row. His last one was 2 years ago, and when you stick around that long, and I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, he's been a blip on the radar. I think we should be giving props to Brian Barberena more so than talking about Ellenberger's retirement. But maybe that's me just being a Jake Ellenberger hater. For some reason, I always got him confused with Jake Shields for some reason.
What?
I'm not sure. Yeah. It's just I could have sworn he fought GSP for the title and lost. I had to look it up to see that I was wrong. I mentioned on the show several Jake Shields facts about Ellenberger.
Trading with Diaz.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He has some quality wins on there, man, and it's again like pointing back to this age thing. It's just weird to me, a guy that fights at that, north of 160 pounds. I mean, that's kind of using a boxing reference, kind of middle of the road at middleweight. But I mean, the guy could have been a light heavyweight in boxing. And when you're that big and you're you're just not supposed to not be hitting your prime at 33 years of age. But again, I've said this a lot about other fighters, man. I mean, it's not up to me to say what you should or shouldn't be doing. If the guy, if he lost it in his heart, then that's definitely time to bow out, and that's kind of when your body or your heart tells you you're not in it anymore. And maybe that's the case for him. I think if he wanted to, he could go fight at Bellator or go fight at another promotion, have some name recognition, still make some money. But if the guy still has his faculties, I'm assuming, and if he keeps fighting the quality of fighters that, because of his name, because of how long he's been around, he's going to have to keep fighting up and coming kids that are killers.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Either that or tough guys. So I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to stay around the UFC unless you just don't give a shit if your brain's scrambled eggs at the end of the day. Yeah. So man, the guy can do whatever he wants to do. I'm not really going to miss him that much.
Fair play, mate. Finally, Bob, what did you make of the fight, the finish, and also thoughts on the career of the Juggernaut?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by this. Obviously, I think, as Kevin said, a lot of us anticipated him losing the fight. Jake Ellenberger had lost 4 in a row prior to this fight, and these 4 fights that he lost were by TKO, by KO too. In the case of Mike Perry, that was just a devastating elbow knockout. And so when you don't have the chin anymore, you don't have the capacity to deal with the damage of these up-and-coming fighters, then you got to call it quits. You got to call it quits at 33 years of age, which is very, very young. But with his career, considering how long Ellenberger has been fighting, it's a very old 33. He's been fighting really since 2005, right. And it's just time to call it a career there. As far as his career, he does have some notable victories, as we've discussed. He does have experience in major MMA promotions. This is a guy who fought for the IFL, fought for Bodog, of course also fought for the UFC. He's got wins over people like Diego Sanchez, Jake Shields, Jay Haran, Nate Marquardt, and whatnot. So, you got to give him props for that. Beating notable fighters in MMA, but everybody has an expiration date, and Father Time eventually calls everybody, and that's what we saw with Jake Ellenberger. Always a classy guy, never really, that I could tell, got into some of the more questionable antics in the sport and the promotional aspects. A former Marine as well, and I'll tell you, I don't know who he was kissing. He was, if that was his wife or that was his girlfriend or one of these 2 hot blondes that he walked over to after his fight. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is probably going to be very, very happy. He could spend more time with whoever the hell he was kissing and hugging, appeared to be family members or girlfriend or whatnot. So this guy has no problem getting the women, and you got to be happy for him for that.
Fair play, mate. Fair play. Hey, guys, let's talk main event. I was on the Bottom Line podcast this week, Davison Baker, and my predictions for this main event, I was way off. Gaethje's style, though, man, it's such a gamble when it doesn't pay off. It's glorious to watch, don't get me wrong. And when it does pay off, such as the case here, I guess it's glorious as well. Great finish. It goes 2-2 in the UFC. They're all great fights. Let's hear some thoughts. We'll start with Kevin this time. Kev, tell us all, mate.
Well, sad to see the man from Mineral Wells, Texas, go down. But you know, I mean, Justin Gaethje, man. I mean, I loved his approach to this fight. You know, there was a lot of talk about the reach advantage. I mean, hell, Vegas actually had Vick favored going into this fight. I thought that was strange. You know, there was talk before the fight, and what Gaethje was saying was, hey, I've been main events, I've been holding titles, and people were counting him out, man. I mean, well, not people were counting him out, but I mean, hell, he was the dog. He shouldn't have been the dog going into this fight. You know, maybe it's because of his last 2 losses, but you look at his last 2 losses. I mean, dude, it was 2 of the top guys in the division, and Dustin Poirier and former champion Eddie Alvarez. The deal with fighting him, man, and that's why I don't know why there was so much made of this reach advantage deal. I mean, it's hard to keep that guy at a distance. You know, you got to be a little quicker on your feet to get away from him, and you got to have some other tactic besides I'm gonna fight at range. And I'm gonna keep him at a distance. You cannot go backwards when you're fighting this guy. The problem with that is he wants you to sit there and fight in his kitchen. So I mean, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. You got to make him respect you early, and then you got to make him respect you often. You got to fight inside. You got to be able to do that, and then you got to be able to get out when you want to get out and fight your pace of the fight. Obviously, we didn't see a whole lot of that because the thing didn't go on for very long. But yeah, man, beautiful combination. Classic left hook, overhand right lands, left misses, right lands on the button. And I'm talking about Snore City, baby. That dude was out cold. I ain't seen nobody out cold like that in a while. Get out the smelling salts time, dude. Yeah. Understandably, James Vick is pretty upset, only suffering his second loss in his career. First one was a knockout to Benel Darush. But he'll bounce back, man. The guy is very big for the division. You know, I think he's proven he's been brought up the right way. But as far as has he fought people that are on Justin Gaethje's level, I don't think so, man. I think we got to go back to the drawing board, put our nose to the grindstone, and be ready for what comes next, because next time you get an opportunity like this, we need to last a little bit longer. You win or lose, draw. You got to make a fight of this deal, or that type of shit will get in the fighter's head. And next time a big fight comes around, all he's going to be thinking about is don't slip up, don't drop my hands, going backwards, get caught with this big shot again, man. That was knockout of the year material for me, man. That's definitely top 5 when I go to review and stuff at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, it was solid for sure. Bob, how about you? I mean, this Gaethje style, it only knows guts and glory, right?
Yeah, and this is a kind of a suspenseful moment for the UFC, for fans, because we didn't know what was going to happen with Justin Gaethje. He's coming off of 2 losses in a row. If he would have lost this fight, would he be, quote, must-see TV, after this? And so there was a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, I'm sure, on the part of the UFC, because Gaethje is such a marketable fighter. He's such a highlight reel type fighter that you can't help but watch him. And he goes in there and he delivers. I got to tell you, I was a little bit off put by some of the antics by James Vick, leading up to this fight. He just seemed kind of a little bit obnoxious, kind of a little bit outspoken, which is not surprising, given the promotional climate in the UFC. But I will give James Vick credit, because after this fight, he was very, very respectful. He posted on Instagram about how he has no excuses. This is a horrible loss. He said things that he maybe wouldn't have said, but he was trying to promote the fight, and he was all class and all respect after the fight. And I hope that for his sake, he learns from this. He gets better. He's still definitely a prospect, still definitely that somebody that could advance in the organization. Now, as far as what's left for Justin Gaethje, there was some talk about him fighting Paul Felder. We saw during the post-fight interview. I don't want to see him fight Paul Felder. It's no disrespect to Paul Felder, but I want to see Gaethje fight other top contenders. Kevin Lee, who's ranked number 5 now. I think that would be a really, really good fight. And really anybody at the top of that division for Justin Gaethje would be an exciting fight because Justin Gaethje always has exciting fights, and so there's a lot that the UFC could do with him, and it really is something that's going to be very, very good for the MMA fans and the analysts out there to see. I like Justin Gaethje. I think he's a humble guy. He's a working class guy. He just goes in there and performs, and win, lose, or draw, the fans always get their money's worth with Justin Gaethje.
For sure, mate, for sure. Finally, Victor, Gaethje takes home the W, big right hand. Your thoughts on the fight, sir?
Yeah, I'm glad Kevin brought up the Beneil Dariush fight for a few reasons. Number one, I was there when Dariush knocked him out, and full disclosure, anyone that's probably been following on social media knows this. I am no fan of Vick, and I basically haven't been since the beginning. The more and more I see from him, actually, I feel that my dislike of him is justified. But what's weird is in that fight with Dariush, he got knocked out. I don't remember if it was a left or right hand, but basically same kind of thing. Much shorter fighter, came in with the power punches and knocked him out against the fence as well with his chin held high. So I think he might have learned from that one, but apparently he hasn't. But yeah, Gaethje's back, man. It was props to him. I may not like Vic, but that is not an easy guy to look impressive against, and he did. Mm-hmm. And he took him out early too. Yeah, he took him out early too. Avoided the notorious James Vick eye pokes as well, and, which isn't good for Justin because he's already half blind anyway. But good for him getting the knockout. And Vic, I really hope he fixes this. I don't wish people to get knocked out cold, consistently unless they're terribly bad people. But I hope he fixes this. I think he can do good. But Gaethje, it looks like he's back, and I hope he's back. And yeah, Carson, Bob had some good points with Kevin Lee. I'd love to see that fight. Kevin Lee would be an awesome fight. I think they brought it up on the Fox Sports broadcast about Barboza too. Especially Barboza's changing camps now, especially and with his style, not just his kicks, but the fact that he's not good with pressure. I think it's a winnable fight for Gaethje, but regardless, I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. So props to the man.
Fair play, mate. Fair play. Guys, let's go to the final part of the show. My favourite answer and fan questions. Lots to get into this week from Facebook and from Twitter. We'll start with the Facebook portions this week. Let's start with Colin Mack, who says Gaethje was right about Vic not liking to get hit and that he'd get problems fighting on the back foot. I believe in a pre-fight interview, Gaethje said the weight cut would be a problem for a tall guy like Vic, but who knows, he could have a glass jaw. Glad Gaethje won. We need a fan favourite in high-stakes fights. He's going on a hiatus for a pretty long time now, so that sucks. What, is he not fighting anymore? I don't know this.
Oh, no, he said that he was going to take a little time off, take a vacation, hang out with the fam, man. I wouldn't anticipate. What he was saying was that he's fought 4 times, and he always takes 3 months to have a camp, and he fought 4 times this year. He's been in camp straight for 13 months. The only time he had off was on the Ultimate Fighter, and he doesn't. He needs a little time off, and I think that's correct, man. Went 2-2 this year. I don't know if Victor's making a late night run for Hater of the Year, hating on my boy James Vick. Why do I always want to call him Michael Vick? There's a guy to hate on. Save your hate for Michael Vick, buddy. That is a American football former quarterback for you guys across the pond that don't know, and he liked to be involved in dog fighting rings and hanging fucking dogs from trees and shit. So that's a real piece of shit for you. James Vick, and it takes a certain personality to be a fighter. So let's not hate on him. But yeah, man, nobody likes getting hit with a shot like that. Come on now.
No, definitely not.
The reason I think this is what always put a bad taste in my mouth with Vic was I don't remember who he fought. It was maybe like 4 years ago. It was the first time I see him fight, and I guess he'd been on a layoff for like 2 years or something. And it was the sloppiest, aside from like Kimbo Dada or something ridiculous like that. It was like the sloppiest, most I mean, both these guys just looked like they were drunk, just fighting on ice skates. I'm like, how is this UFC level? This guy sucks, man. I saw him get better, but in my mind, I couldn't get rid of that image. And if we're going down that route with him being a real piece of shit, I've heard this, and I don't know if this is true, but I know some people really don't like him for this. I don't keep too much attention on it, but I know he's been affiliated with Lloyd Irvin, and supposedly has even some people have called him a rape apologist because a few people in Lloyd Irving's camp have it's been documented that 2 students from his school raped a woman that went to the same class. So there's that, and a lot of people think just the fact that he's affiliated with him is bad enough, because even fighters like Dominic Cruz and Brandon Vera were affiliated with him, but they separated as soon as they heard that, and he still hasn't. I won't go too much into that because I don't know what's going on with the guy yet, but I just know that Lloyd Irving's a very disgusting human being.
Well, I was gonna accuse you of West Coast bias for a second, but then you started interjecting the rape stuff, and that's totally
Well, Gaethje's from Colorado, but I'm just a Gaethje fan in general. That's just fight style, not so much geography.
Yeah, man, I love him too. I'm not even in the same country. Let's move on with Matthew Penny, good friend of the show, is asking, is this a turning point for Gaethje long term, or will he struggle against higher ranked opponents?
I don't think so. I think that a turning point, perhaps, because like I said, I mean, if he had lost another one to James Vick, and James Vick is a guy that didn't really have too many high profile fighters on his resume, and Gaethje actually said prior to the fight, listen, I'm the main event fighter here. You're lucky to be fighting me in the main event. And so, I think Gaethje is going to do fine against anybody in that division. Whether or not he's going to win the belt, whether or not he's going to be able to beat the upper echelon fighters in that division, I don't know. But I think I don't see him struggling. I think he's going to continue to do what he does.
I'm with Bob, man. If you watch this kid in the World Series of Fighting, I mean, the guy's been top notch for quite some time. He was thrown to the wolves. I wouldn't call it that he, when you run into guys like Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez, man, I don't know if I'd call it, struggling. You're hitting the top guys at the wrong time. Right. Man, he's not done at all. I mean, he's going to get it done. You know what I mean? It's a matter of being prepared and getting that experience against these top guys and getting the wins, getting some confidence, and that's what we got to get.
Aye, no, definitely. Let's move on with Stephen Chen, who's asking, can you explain why Pettis deserves to fight Ferguson? I feel like he's not in the same caliber as Tony, Khabib, Conor and Poirier. Pettis should be fighting Diaz equals what? And Poirier should be fighting Tony, in my opinion.
Anthony Pettis was getting fights the same reason that Jake Ellenberger will get fights. Man, his name's Anthony Pettis. Everybody remembers the Showtime kick. That name recognition adds something to the top of the card, man. And I mean, Nate Diaz will sell against anybody. But, Anthony Pettis adds some name recognition. He's a marquee name. That's why he gets the fights.
Yeah.
I actually don't really. That's a good question because I really don't know, and you can look at it at 2 ways. Like Kevin said, he's Anthony Pettis, former champion, very popular back in the WEC and in his championship run. It'll get some views, but that really shouldn't matter when Conor McGregor is headlining your pay-per-view. That's kind of a moot point. But the other way you could look at it too is it's kind of been no secret, especially as of late, that Showtime hasn't really gone along too well with the UFC. If you remember with the Khabib fight, him requesting more money, and I think there was something even before that of him not wanting to take a fight because they refused to up his pay. You could also look at it as, you could also, if you're being cynical, you could also look at it as, well, the UFC wants to punish him, so they'll give him Ferguson, who's for sure going to, cut him up with some elbows or get him in a, really fucked up highlight reel or something. I don't know. It depends on where you're looking at it from, and right now I really can't decipher.
Fair play. Moving on with Davison Baker, my man DB, who's asking, who should Michael Johnson be matched up with next based on his performance?
You know, people are going to hate this, man, but I would not be opposed to seeing Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje again. That was a great fight.
He's sick.
And, I get it. You know, I mean, I get why people wouldn't want to see that fight and why it wouldn't be beneficial for Justin Gaethje. But, hell, they just fought on the same card. Or, I don't know, man. I mean, I want to see him in there against a name, man, and not against a guy that he can land, upwards of 60% of his shots on. I want to see him. I want to see him in a war, man. I remember the Nate Diaz fight, man, was just kind of a garbage ass fight and very one sided for Diaz. But I don't know, man. I like seeing Michael Johnson fighting anybody. So it's not going to make any difference to me. But let's put somebody tough in there that he's going to respect and that's going to be able to give it back to him. Because when he's so heavy-handed, he's going to land his shots with such precision. It's not going to be much of a fight, man. It's going to be.
Kev, I'll get one for you. He's at featherweight. Jeremy Stevens. How about that?
Hell to the yeah.
Yeah, Little Haven.
Yeah, those are both really good options. I was thinking a little bit weirder though. I was thinking Jason Knight, and I think there's just some really fucked up part in my soul that I want to see that because Jason Knight is, especially with his the Mississippi flag repping and just some questionable things. You just look at the guy and like, I get a weird feeling about it, especially him fighting a black guy. But man, that I think that'd be a fun fight, and I think we should bring. I know Johnson's been a long time, but it is a new weight class. I think you should bring him up kind of slowly, and I think a guy like Jason Knight, aside from the fact that it'll be a fun fight, is a guy who, marginal top 15, right outside the fringes of top 15. I think they're both kind of at that place, and if he could beat a guy like that, especially convincingly, move him up to. Fight the Jeremy Stevens or the Mirsad Bektiches or whoever the higher ranked guys are.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the minority. I don't want to see Michael Johnson fight anybody. I want to see Michael Johnson in Bellator. I'm sorry, I'm just not a Michael Johnson fan. I never have been. Maybe there's a personal bias on my part, but I wasn't interested in seeing him fight last night. I mean, I tweeted out on Twitter that this is the least interesting co-main event that I've ever seen in my life. I wasn't looking forward to it, and it just not that it wasn't an entertaining fight, but I'm sorry. Michael Johnson is just not my guy. The Menace is not my guy.
That's brilliant.
I've been waiting to use my East Coast bias reference from a man, Bob Carson.
You got it.
This is hilarious, man. Let's move on. Martin Hannon is saying all Khabib has is grappling, just like Ronda Rousey had grappling. It works until you face a dangerous striker like Holly Holm or Connor. Mystic Mac is going to make it look easy, in my opinion. I don't know, man. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he has is grappling, like all Chef Boyardee has his fucking raviolis in a can, dude. You know what I'm saying? Come on, bro. Fucking guy's the king of grappling. He don't just have grappling; he has the fucking grappling.
Yes.
And yeah, I think we've all said it before, and anybody rational thinking about this would tell you this is a coin flip if you ever fucking seen one. It's the classic fucking power striker, fucking precision fucking punching dude versus a fucking guy that all he's going to want to do is get you to the fucking ground, and it can go either way, man.
Yeah.
That's that across the pond bias that you're hearing.
Well, I'll say this, that you're absolutely right. It is a coin toss. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what the odds are leading up to this fight. But, listen, Conor McGregor hasn't fought in what, well over a year, almost 2 years now. And when he fought, his last loss was against, obviously, Nate Diaz. Somebody pointed out that he tapped very, very quickly to that rear naked choke. Now, with Khabib, you'd have to kill Khabib to finish him. You'd have to kill him to get him out of there. It seems like he has more desire and is just more of a warrior at this point. So I think that's going to be important too. Just mindset going into this fight. You gotta give it to Khabib. I mean, Conor, he had the Floyd fight. Made a lot of money, and it just a layoff is a layoff, and it could affect him in this fight. Could not, but we'll see.
Aye.
Have you ever wrestled a bear, Bob? Jesus Christ,
No.
there ain't no there's no fucking give up in those goddamn matches. I guarantee you.
That's
Yeah.
it.
This isn't any real solid technical analysis or anything. It's just something interesting that I've noticed. I'm not really on board with the striker versus grappler thing. I mean, yes, obviously that is what the matchup is, but Khabib, yes, his striking is not good. But I do gotta say, as much as people were talking shit about the Iaquinta fight, I was very, very, very surprised with his jab and his front kick. And I know that doesn't seem like much, but Conor is a tall guy, and I'm pretty sure he'll have the reach advantage. If he can actually use those weapons at least somewhat well, it can help him way more with the wrestling. I think the odds could, who knows what it'll reflect on fight night, but based on that, I think he has a pretty solid chance. But I will say McGregor is talking mad shit, even worse than he has with anyone else. He's gone after Khabib's father, and he's bringing up things with Dagestan and Chechnya. He's making it very similar with Aldo about nationalism and patriotism to your land. So I'm pretty sure a guy like Khabib won't take that too lightly. And also, someone brought this up on Twitter, and I thought it was a very good point. Someone said that if you think that he's crossing the line with his dad, imagine when he starts talking about Allah. And I'm pretty sure that Conor is not afraid to go there. Yeah.
He's putting his life in his own hands with that one. Jesus.
Yeah. Can see it happening though.
Fatwa put on his ass.
Can see it happening for sure. Let's move on to Twitter, guys. Some interesting ones to come in from Twitter tonight, but let's go with it. First one, nice and easy though, at Madison E. Bailey. Paul Felder is pretty good as an interviewer. Anyone else agree?
Oh yeah, he's great, man. He's great.
I like him.
Love that guy.
Nice dude.
Yeah, no one can replace Brian Stan, but he's a good second in line. He's as good as we can get without the old Stan, man.
For sure. Let's see. Here we go. At Anners45. With the smaller turnout for the Pope yesterday in Ireland, does that make Conor more popular than God in his native land? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
he
you have to say so.
They didn't show up to the bars to watch the fight yesterday. Is that what he's saying?
I think what he says is the Pope Mobile didn't have as a bigger turnout as maybe what Mystic Mac does. That's what he's suggesting.
Well, yeah, no shit. I mean, fuck, man. I've seen the decline. Honestly, man, I used to watch every one of these fights at the spot down here where people go to watch fights, and man, I've seen it. I remember the first time was when John Jones and Demetrius Johnson were on the same card fighting together, and there was never a line at the door. And I thought, UFC's kind of taking a back seat. But I think we talked about this a lot on the show this morning, man, about NFL ratings. Actually, this is kind of where it came up. The streaming, man, just the ways people can watch. That's what's causing everybody's ratings are down. It's not just this sport or that sport or this show or that show. We're in a transitional period where the pay-per-view model is becoming obsolete, and there's more and more ways to watch. That's why you're going to see a decline in what the ratings companies can come up with. And then also, I mean, come on, man, you're talking about Conor McGregor and the pubs, as you call bars over there. It's a given, man. When he fights, it's a fucking event. And I couldn't even imagine how it is over there. I mean, everybody wants to show up. They want to all be together to watch the fight. I mean, with Justin Gaethje's fighting, a guy from fucking Texas, and who wants to be around their friends? This is something you watch on the couch, with your wife, and you take a break in the middle of the card to go take care of her. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Fair. Let's move on. Lily Dine, is it KSI or KSI? I'll just go with KSI. KSI versus Logan Paul ends in a draw. Who wants to see the rematch? I don't know. I had to research this myself. It's a YouTube boxing celebrity thing or something, right? Anyone?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't. I saw a thread on the Underground about this. I can't even really comment. Although I could say, listen, these type of fights are getting more and more popular now. You've got bare knuckle boxing, which took place yesterday. People are looking for these new type of competitions. So, who knows?
I'm glad you brought up the bare knuckle thing, man. I mean, you got a night where there was boxing on ESPN. You got UFC's on FS1, and you got bare knuckle boxing for like $15 on pay-per-view, man. I rented the last one. I would have rented if there wasn't so much going on free TV, I would have rented that one last night as well. And you got all this shit going on, and you're gonna watch celebrity fucking boxing? Give me a break, man. All I do know about the card is that chick from the MTV I'm a Pregnant Teenager show that did some porn, and the fucking chick from the Flavor Flav show 10 years ago fucking fought. That's the only thing I know about the card. And, I mean, as interesting as that is to look at them doing the stare down, I'm not going to go out of my fucking way to watch the goddamn thing, especially when there's real fucking fighting on TV.
I'm very ignorant about this, but all I know is that whenever the ratings for last night's UFC event come out, I'm sure they'll be dwindling as they always are. They'll be low and be like, oh, well, let's see what happens with ESPN and see how the UFC is going to turn this shit around. Whatever the number is for that fight that happened yesterday is easily 10 times the amount of what the UFC did last night. And it was also a pay-per-view. People paid $10 a pop. And I don't know how factual this is, but my nephew informed me that supposedly, hold on to your chairs for this one. Supposedly, they made $10 million a piece.
What?
Yeah,
bullshit.
This is what I heard. Yeah, I call bullshit too. I don't know. I didn't look up the article. I don't know how true that is. But if the numbers are what they say they are, it's possible. Not likely, but possible.
10 million each.
Yeah.
Holy moly, man.
I really hope. Don't take my word for that. I don't. This is what I
wouldn't. If that's anywhere close to true, I wouldn't plan on seeing another celebrity boxing $10 pay-per-view again, because if they're paying out that much, the people promoting that lost a ton of goddamn money last night.
Definitely, mate. Let's take one more from Twitter before we wrap up, guys. At Else for Elf, with Curtis Harper walking out after 1 second and still getting paid, wouldn't it make sense for Conor to do the same against Khabib and let him fight the real champ, Ferguson?
Wait, I'm sorry. That guy got paid? That guy got paid.
He didn't? I read somewhere he did, right? No. According to this chick said.
I would think. I don't know what his contract was saying, man, but he obviously knew what he was doing. It's not like he decided to do that after the fucking stare down when he walked to the corner. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he had that planned out. I mean, that was the craziest shit, man. I've never seen anything. It reminds me when Oliver McCall fought Lennox Lewis and starts crying in the fucking second round. Yeah. You know, that's some weird shit. But I mean, to the guy's credit, I mean, you were in there. This guy he was facing is a fucking killer, man. And it's very strange to see a guy with like 5 or 6 fights have never fought a guy with a losing record. This dude is a fucking true blue heavy hitting prospect, and I don't blame the guy for getting the fuck out of Dodge, man. I mean, shit. Every one of us on this roundtable would have done the same goddamn thing.
That was the craziest thing. He didn't even look back. It wasn't even like he just like I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm gonna look at the screen. Just straight tunnel vision. Just keep walking forward. Don't even look around you.
Walking all the way to the bank.
Screen time to explain this deal. They ain't paying him. They ain't paying me enough for that shit. You know what I mean?
I want to see the day where, like, let's say we're in the NFL or and somebody's having a contract dispute, and they purposely score against their own team just to make a point. Could you imagine that? Something like that happening?
I'm sure this guy got paid, but now I'm beginning to think he didn't. But yeah, I take Kev's point. It's almost like, but why else would he do what he did? He must have known what was in his contract, right?
Oh yeah.
This cannot play well too for this union shit going on with the UFC and Project Spearhead and all that. And look, I'm actually one of these people that I don't like the half and half, the show money, win money structure in the UFC and in MMA in general. But Dana and company are going to see that. They're like, fuck that. We're gonna pay you before pay you your money up front before you even fight. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it'd be a little harder to get out of a cage with as much ease as Harper made his exit through the ring.
Casual stroll out of the octagon, that's it, mate. Well, there you have it, guys. UFC Lincoln's now in the books, and next up for us, September the 1st, we'll be in Liverpool for Cage Warriors 96, Paddy Pimblett versus Soren back at the Echo. But let me extend my thanks to the panel here today, and starting, of course, with Mr. Kevin Jones from the main event. Kevin, let all the listeners know about all the wonderful work you do with the main event and some of the stuff where to check it online, mate.
You can listen live in the West Texas area from 8 to 9 every Sunday morning, Double T 97.3 FM. You can also find us on Double T973.com. From that website, you can listen to the podcast whenever you want, man. Listen to it to your convenience. Easiest way is download the mobile app into your smartphone, tablet, or other devices that download smartphone apps.
Thank you very much, brother. To Bob Carson, for Carson's Corner podcast. Let our listeners know, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, John. Thank you to my fellow panelists. And please go to my website, blogtalkradio.com/Carson's Corner. That's blogtalkradio.com/Carson's Corner. Friend me on Facebook, facebook.com/Bob Carson MMA, and Twitter too, twitter.com/Bob Carson MMA.
Awesome stuff, guys. Finally, to my brother from another mother, Mr. Victor Vargas. Always a pleasure, mate. Let everyone know where to find out your work online, mate.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for having me on. As always, I actually got back. I wrote a little article for MMA Wreckage. It was the Courtney Casey, Angela Hill preview. That didn't go my way of how I predicted, but I'm thinking of writing something else. I don't know if it's Wreckage or elsewhere. On next week's Invicta fight. I'm a big fan of the girl that's fighting, Janisa Morandin, so keep an eye out for my work sometime this week. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Juice_MMA, like always.
Awesome stuff. And of course, if you've liked this show, then hit us up on Facebook. It's facebook.com/martial arts chat. Remember, we're live every Sunday, 8:30 p.m. here in the UK, talking all things MMA. Follow us on Twitter @martial arts chat. And if you want to subscribe on iTunes, simply search for Martial Arts Chat. I'm John Boy McElroy, and I'll catch you next time on the Roundtable.
Change your heart.